Hey y'all, this is Steve Witchoskey, and the video I studied was a TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, who's a social scientist, and she was talking about how your body language may shape who you are. And she started off talking about research done at Tufts University, talking about inside of a doctor's office, how judgments of the physician's niceness based off like soundless body postures or just nonverbal postures, those determined whether or not those physicians would be sued, which is kind of crazy. And she led off with another fact about how judgments of political candidates' faces in just 1 second predicted 70% of U.S. Senate results. So that was a really good start to the TED Talk. And she went right into a study done by mainly Jessica Tracy, who kind of started this thing about nonverbal interactions among humans, and how the top, how to characterize each interactions were power and dominance, and then powerless and non-dominance. And she opens up talking about how the animal kingdom, like their nonverbal shows of dominance is expanding and opening up, and chest broad and primates, and then like a snake or a cobra, like their neck or like their body is like erect, just opening up. And same in even humans too. It had like a picture of Usain Bolt after finishing the race, and hands are up, pointing to the sky. And it was actually interesting because they did a study in the same way how people born with sight and also people born blind do the same thing after winning with the arms up, no matter, you can't even see. And on the other side is the powerless and non-dominant features, which is kind of small, kind of fold your shoulders, and you don't want to interact, don't want to bump into anybody. So the TED Talk goes on talking about the classroom, including MBA students. They did a study on that, how MBA students have to be more confident because the 90% of the class grade is like interaction and participation among the classroom. And a lot of MBA students will try to occupy the space when they walked in. They're confident, they're talking, hands are raised all the way to the sky, sitting up in their chair, whereas other grad students kind of made themselves small, walk in, put the backpack down, shoulders closed together, raise the hand, just something simple. Don't want to be seen very often. And that study continues on a gender aspect as well, which we've studied before earlier in the semester, how men versus women, men are kind of seen more as like a dominant feature. In the same way, I'm going to keep saying this throughout the study, it was just an open kind of aura, whereas women is more of like generalized, kind of closed, don't want to be seen as much, a little less confident in the gender aspect. And then in the study, Amy Cuddy, the social psychologist who ran the whole thing, opened up a couple questions, how things that we need to think about. It's been known for so long that nonverbals affect how others feel about us, but have we ever thought about how nonverbals affect how we feel about ourselves? Not what other people think about us, but how we feel about it, as well as we always think about how our mind changes our body, and that's used so much in sports, how we have to get over the mind aspects. We can tell our mind to be quiet and let our body do the work, but have we ever thought about how our bodies can change our minds? So that led into talking about the physiological side of this whole study on nonverbal postures and interactions, being that testosterone is the dominant chemical, and then cortisol is like the stress chemical, and they compare like powerful primate, like leading primate levels, like monkeys, gorillas, show a lot of pictures and videos of them, compared to powerful business leaders in an economy. And doing the study on both, they used saliva samples, just a very generalized, ambiguous study, how high testosterone levels and low cortisol stress levels defined like a powerful primate leader or powerful business leaders. And you think about like, who would you want as a leader? Would you want a dominant, low stress, or would you want a high stress, not dominant? So those kind of defined leadership characteristics in those fields. And then, so Amy Cuddy goes on in the TED Talk explaining data done by her partner Dana Carney and Amy Cuddy, both at Berkeley University. They did an experiment on high power poses versus low power poses. So they brought in, it was human subjects, how high power poses, expanding, like I said earlier, expanding the body, and how low power poses, folding the body, like how those are compared. And so they did the test, and like the high power poses, they're leaned back in their chair, arms are up, some simple, hands on the hips. Those were like the power poses. And then low power poses, again, folding, arms crossed, hand on the chin, hand on the neck, kind of less confident. And they asked each subject, would you like to gamble? And did the tested their saliva, like I said earlier. High power position, 86% gambled. Lower power position, 60% gambled. And then in the high power position, expanding, 20% increase in testosterone. Lower power, 10% decreased. And then high power positions is the opposite, 25% decrease in cortisol, and lower power position, 15% increase in cortisol. So the same thing, talking about how a more dominant featured human being with nonverbal interactions, increase in testosterone, decrease in cortisol. All based off of nonverbal poses. So that was like the main major points of this TED Talk. Just the dominance versus less dominant, power versus powerless. That was the main theme, and then all the experience and all the theories were based off the experiments. So that was it for the TED Talk. Hopefully y'all kind of understand what I was saying. Just the main theme is how we affect what our minds think, like how we use our nonverbal interactions, take the sound out of it, how we position our bodies in certain aspects, that can totally change what we think about our world. So that's all I got for y'all.